When did you realize your entire family was paid actors hired to gaslight you? The first crack appeared on my 18th birthday when Mom forgot my middle name on the cake. Not a typo. She stood there holding the frosting tube, staring at me with genuine confusion while Dad quickly suggested we just use Happy Birthday Alex instead. My middle name is Reed. It's been Reed for 18 years. She'd written it on birthday cards, school forms, and medical documents thousands of times. But that morning, she looked at me like I was a stranger asking for directions. I brushed it off. Stress from planning the party, maybe. But when I mentioned it to my sister Jenna later, she got this weird expression and said she couldn't remember my middle name either. Then she laughed too loud and changed the subject to college applications. That night, lying in bed, I pulled out my birth certificate from my desk drawer. Alexander Reed Thompson, born March 15th, 2005. The paper felt real enough under my fingers, but something cold settled in my stomach. The second crack came 3 days later when I found my baby photos. I'd been looking through old albums for a school project about family history when I noticed something strange about the pictures from my first year. Every single photo of me as a baby looked slightly off. Not obviously fake, but wrong in a way I couldn't pinpoint. The lighting seemed different from the other family photos taken during the same time period. My skin tone looked odd compared to photos of Jenna as a baby. And in several pictures, Mom's hands looked too big holding infant me, like the proportions were wrong. I brought the album to the kitchen where Mom was making dinner. She glanced at the photos and smiled, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. When I asked where these were taken, she hesitated before saying the hospital, but couldn't remember which hospital. When I pressed for details about my birth, she got flustered and said she'd blocked out most of the experience due to trauma. Dad walked in during this conversation and immediately started talking about a work project, steering us away from the topic entirely. That weekend, I drove to the county records office. The clerk, a woman named Patricia with kind eyes and gray hair, helped me request a copy of my original birth certificate. She typed my information into the computer and frowned. Then she typed again, slower this time. After 10 minutes of searching, she looked up at me with confusion. There was no record of Alexander Reed Thompson being born on March 15th, 2005 in this county. No record of me being born anywhere in the state, actually. The panic started as a flutter in my chest and grew into something that made my hands shake. Patricia suggested I check with the hospital directly. Maybe there was a filing error. She wrote down the phone numbers of 3 hospitals in the area, but her expression remained troubled. Walking back to my car, I felt like the ground might disappear beneath my feet. How do you not exist in official records but have a birth certificate in your desk drawer? I called the first hospital from my car. The records department put me on hold for 15 minutes before coming back with the same answer. No record of my birth. The second hospital said the same thing. By the time I called the third, my voice was shaking so badly the clerk asked if I was okay. When she also found no record, I hung up and sat in the parking lot trying to breathe normally. That evening, I cornered Dad in his study. He looked up from his computer with that same forced smile I'd seen from Mom. When I told him about the records office and the hospitals, his face went pale. He started talking quickly about bureaucratic mistakes and how these things happen all the time. But when I asked him to help me figure it out, he suddenly remembered an important work call he had to make. He left the room so fast, he knocked over his coffee cup. The third crack became a canyon when I decided to call my grandparents. I'd been putting it off because we weren't particularly close, but they would remember my birth, right? Grandma Dorothy answered on the second ring, sounding delighted to hear from me. But when I asked her about the day I was born, the silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Finally, she said she wasn't feeling well and would call me back later. She never did. I tried Grandpa George next. He picked up but seemed confused when I identified myself. He kept asking me to repeat my name, then said he thought I might have the wrong number. When I mentioned being Mom's son, he paused and said Linda didn't have any children. Linda is my mother's name. He hung up before I could explain further. Full story on my channel and linked below.